Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, Israel is leading the world in the number of coronavirus immunizations per capita. The Jewish state continues its aggressive vaccination campaign against COVID-19 and has administered almost 2 million Pfizer shots, inoculating 20% of the population in just over 2 weeks. This as Israel remains in the midst of its third national lockdown, with the numbers of coronavirus cases reaching new daily highs and the morbidity rate topping 7%. The heads of Israeli hospitals announced that the third wave of coronavirus is shaping up to be the worst yet, with new strains that are proving to be more infectious and younger patients being hospitalized with complications.
Tehran has announced that it has ramped up its production of uranium to 20% purity. This is just a technical step away from weapons-grade levels. In fact, a top nuclear expert told the Jerusalem Post that this increase could allow Iran to reach nuclear breakout within just 6 weeks. The Iranian parliament recently passed a law requiring their nuclear facilities to enrich uranium to this purity, and it informed the International Atomic Energy Agency of its intentions to do so. Iran is believed to be in possession of 2.4 tons of enriched uranium, which is 12 times the amount allowed by the Obama-brokered JCPOA agreement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this step is proof that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons, something that Israel has repeatedly vowed it will not allow.
The United States, Israel, and the Gulf states, which recently made peace agreements with Jerusalem, are on high alert for Iranian terror attacks. The raised security level corresponds to the first anniversary of the assassination of Iranian military commander and terror mastermind Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad. The threats include a general order issued by the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, to level the cities of Haifa and Tel Aviv to the ground. There are also credible threats against Israelis and Jews abroad, as well as U.S. interest in the Middle East. Authorities in the United Arab Emirates arrested several Iranian operatives in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, where thousands of Israelis are currently vacationing. An American aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, and its strike group have been ordered to remain in the Persian Gulf in response to recent threats from Iran against the President of the United States.
An Israeli woman was badly wounded when Palestinians throwing rocks shattered the windshield of her car while she was driving with 2 of her children. 40-year-old Rivka Taitel was taken to the hospital with a critical head wound. She underwent brain surgery at Sheba Medical Center and remains in serious condition. There's been an uptick in rock throwing and violence in Judea and Samaria. In late December, Esther Horgan, an Israeli mother of 6, was brutally beaten and murdered by a Palestinian terrorist. In the week that followed, there were at least 13 incidents of Palestinian stone throwing at Israelis, as well as an attempted stabbing attack. This increase in terror activity is linked to an organized campaign in the Arab media to incite violence against Jews, while members of the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, and Hamas have increased their calls for a popular resistance against Israel.
The United Nations has continued its trend of vilifying the Jewish state through its General Assembly resolutions. In 2020, the UN passed 17 measures against Israel, compared to just 6 against all other countries. Hillel Neuer, the executive director of UN Watch, decried the UN's assault on Israel with a torrent of one-sided resolutions. He said the purpose of the lopsided condemnations is to demonize the Jewish state. Neuer noted that the countries that voted yes to more than 2/3 of the UN resolutions singling out Israel are the same nations that failed to introduce a single resolution on the human rights situations in China, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, Turkey, Pakistan, and other countries that grossly abuse the human rights of its citizens. He added that the farce at the General Assembly underscores a simple fact. The UN's automatic majority has no interest in truly helping Palestinians, nor in protecting anyone's human rights. The goal of these ritual one-sided condemnations is to scapegoat Israel.
In a rare show of Israeli partisan support for 2 U.S. senatorial candidates, the mayor of Samaria has called on Georgians to vote for the candidates that will support biblical values. Yossi Dagan said the runoff in Georgia is very important for the future of the United States of America, but also for Israel. It will determine who will control the Senate and the character of the decisions being made. He endorsed the Republican candidates Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, saying that they will stand by their biblical morals.
Former U.S. Naval Intelligence Analyst Jonathan Pollard, who was arrested for passing information to Israel 35 years ago, has arrived in Israel. Pollard was arrested in 1985 for spying after he passed classified documents crucial to Israel's security to an agent of the Jewish state. Pollard pled guilty after being assured by U.S. authorities that he would receive a lighter sentence. Instead, he was given a life term. He spent 30 years behind bars. Pollard was released in 2015, but remained on probation for several years, which prevented him from moving to Israel with his wife until now.
Jerusalem is concerned that the construction of a new reservoir in Lebanon will cut off water flow to the Jordan River. The dam currently being built in Lebanon near Israel's northern border will halt water flow into the Wazani River that feeds into the Sneer Stream, which is a major source of water to the Jordan River. Israeli officials have warned their neighbors to the north that siphoning water from Lebanon into Israel is a violation of international law.
Archaeologists working on the Temple Mount Sifting project have unveiled their recreation of the magnificent floors in the Second Temple. In 1999, the Muslim Waqf, which controls the Temple Mount, illegally dug up thousands of years of Jewish history and dumped it into the Kidron Valley. Israeli authorities took possession of this artifact-rich earth and have been painstakingly sifting through it one bucket at a time. Their discoveries have been used to piece together history at the holiest site in Judaism. The Second Temple, built after the Babylonian exile, underwent massive renovations by King Herod. The team of Israeli scholars, masons, and archaeologists worked together to incorporate excavated Dead Sea stone, hand-tooled limestone, and imported marble. This variety of textures and colors is consistent with the description of Josephus Flavius, which said the floors of the portico of the Temple of Solomon were laid with stones of all sorts. The breathtaking recreation is currently on display at the Sifting Project site at Mitzpeh HaMasuot.
An Israeli-developed device to spray translucent skin over burns is currently being used in hospitals throughout Europe, Israel, and India. The Nanomedic Spin Care system utilizes a special gun to spin out breathable web-like nanofiber material that attaches to the wounded area. The flexible waterproof material allows burn patients to shower and not have to change the bandages over their painful wounds. This groundbreaking technology mimics the body's own skin, protecting the wound so that the burn is allowed to heal naturally from within.
The Israel Allies Foundation hosted African lawmakers from 16 nations for a two-day virtual conference. The Speaker of the Israeli Knesset, Yariv Levin, addressed the online forum, thanking the parliamentarians for their advocacy on behalf of the Jewish state. He said, "Your consistent daily efforts standing for Israel and for our common values is what ensures the strength of our ties and allows us to continue having a positive impact together." Israel Allies Foundation President Josh Reinstein praised the tremendous growth the Israel Allies Foundation network has experienced in recent years in Africa under the leadership of IAF Director Bishop Scott Mwanza. He said the essence of the mission of the IAF is what we call faith-based diplomacy. He added that because you are parliamentarians and believers in the Bible, you have an opportunity to translate your biblical support into real political action.
The state of Israel's population grew by 151,000 people in 2020, bringing the total to about 9.3 million citizens. The Central Bureau of Statistics reported that Israel is made up of 6.8 million Jews, nearly 2 million Arabs, and 456,000 residents defined as other. 176,000 babies were born in 2020, and 20,000 Jews made Aliyah, or immigrated to Israel. The Jewish state welcomed 300 new immigrants from Ethiopia on the third day of the new year. These Jews were on the first immigration flight of 2021.
We are living in mysterious yet miraculous times. We've witnessed the most remarkable fulfillment of biblical prophecy, the Jewish people's return to Israel, and the prosperity and contributions of this tiny country in such a short time. Yet we've also seen an unexpected rise in anti-Semitism, which takes the form of anti-Zionism and alliances between groups that are fighting against the most fundamental biblical values. In the book Titus, Trump, and the Triumph of Israel, Josh Reinstein answers important questions to clarify what has driven political action from the time that the Roman Emperor Titus destroyed Jerusalem until today, when President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Get your copy today and learn how faith-based diplomacy has changed the world. To order your advance copy, go to triumphofisrael.com.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Dr. Eli Schussheim. He's the president of the Frut organization. Dr. Schussheim, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you to invite me.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the Frut organization.
The organization that wants to prevent unnecessary abortions. We found that the main reason in Israel from abortions is the lack of money. Difficulties, economical difficulties. We thought in the beginning that is no reason that the lack of money should be a lack of life. This is the reason that I, as a surgeon, that I worked 13 years here in Jerusalem in the hospital in Shaare Tzedek in Hadassah. I was in the Six-Day War also in the war in 1973. I decided in 1977, when it was legalized abortions, and I heard for the first time that we are losing every year 60,000 unborn children. It shocked me. How could it be that we should lose so many lives because difficulties and economical difficulties? I love very much the surgery. I decide to be a surgeon because I want to save lives. And I decide that if to save lives, we have the possibility to treat a plague, a terrible plague, that we are losing tens of thousands of lives. And then we found in this organization, Frut, that we have a a unique approach to avoid these abortions. The main thing is not debates, not disputes, not demonstrations. We found as a doctor to make the diagnosis, what is the reason that the women she should decide to perform an abortion. The main reason, besides that she doesn't know exactly what is an abortion, but the main thing that she has lack of life difficulties, economical difficulties.
It's actually a very important point that you're making. A lot of the abortions that we're seeing today are because they can't afford to have the children in their mind.
Yes,
so by attacking the economic side of things, you're able to have a great effect. So how much effect does this happen when you're saying to people, if the reason you're not having an abortion is because of economic things, then we're going to help you economically. How successful have you been? How many abortions have you stopped?
Till now, I can tell you more than 78,000. 78,000 that we know. There are a lot of others that we don't know. They are not written, because that I heard about us in lectures, in videos, and so on. But it is written by us, yes, in the computer, in the internet by us, is 78,000 today.
So that leads to actually an important question. If the main case of abortion is because of economic situations, and you're helping with that, hasn't the number of abortions in Israel actually decreased a lot? Like, how many abortions were there in Israel last year?
When I started, it was 60,000 a year. Now they are 40,000. From these 40,000, they are 20,000 that they are legal. And we came to the women. When I say it very simple, everyone asks me, how you are doing? I tell you, listen, you have a medical condition that is called pregnancy. From this medical condition, you have two possibilities. You can continue the pregnancy, you can stop it. I will not decide what you will do, but I must explain you. If you will continue, I can promise to you, I can guarantee, I can sign, you will not regret. How I know, I am not a prophet, but I know in my experience for more than 43 years that we don't have one woman that she decide to continue the pregnancy that she now to regret. On the other side, all the women that I know that perform abortions, most of them, they regret why they perform the abortion.
Well, let me ask you a question. The children is the #1 national resource of the state of Israel.
Yes.
So why isn't the government of Israel performing the service that you're doing? Because you're not saying you can't have an abortion. Anyone who wants an abortion can have it. You're saying if it's because of economic means, then we'll give you the money for the first year of the baby's life.
Not money. We are not giving money.
It's interesting. So explain the process.
It's very important. We're not giving any penny. We are giving everything what the child needs for the 2 first years. She needs all the equipment that he needs for the every month. We send directly to her house. Yes, a package with food, with everything what he needs for 2 years. Yes.
So what you're saying is that for the first 2 years of the child's life, you provide the diapers, the cribs, the clothing, the formula.
Also,
why isn't the government doing this? Shouldn't this be something that the government's involved in?
Very good question. On the other side, the government doesn't give us any penny. We are paying for everything that we buy, all the taxes. Yes, on the other side. This is a very good question, but this question you should ask to the government, not to me.
It's interesting, the process of donating in Efrat, there's a way that you can actually donate for one baby for the first 2 years of its life, and you get their name as well. You get the name of the baby.
There's no question. Yes, you get a certificate with the date of the child. I will tell you are not saving only this child. No, you are saving all the generations of this child. This is a total investment. Yes, we have a lot of, I am working in this more than 40 years. We have a lot of them that we saw also the children of the child. People that they invite me for Brit Milah, for circumcision for their child and so on. When they told me they invite me to be to be a Sunday, and they told me, I am inviting you because you saved my life, and you want and you should be in the circumcision of my child.
This is interesting because it's actually a Jewish organization. There's a lot of religious Jews involved, but a lot of support is now coming from Bible-believing Christians. Why do you think Christians are supporting Efrat?
Because I understand the Christians are against abortions. There is no question. I think that the Christians are very, very against abortions and so on. Yes, but I can tell you that most of them, they don't know that we have what they say Efrat. I invite to everyone, when it will be possible, to visit our visitor center to see exactly what we are doing with the donations, how we are able to take these papers and bring from these papers, lives of children.
Dr. Schussheim, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
First of all, I would like to invite you to visit us when you are coming to Jerusalem, our visitor center. You will be able to see what is doing Efrat with your donation. With your donation, we are giving everything what the mother needs for their child for 2 years. And this child will bring other children surely. This is an eternal investment that you are doing. I think that is no better investment that you are doing with your money.
Thank you, Dr. Schussheim, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom, and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grundwerg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Aliyah is crucial to the success of the State of Israel. Without the constant flow of new immigrants who come from the four corners of the earth, the deserts would not have bloomed, the cities would not have been built, and Israel would not be known as the startup nation. Listen to how God has brought His people back to Israel.
Me and my family always prayed to come to Israel because it's a home, it's our home. 10 months ago, I made Aliyah with my sister. We are living together in Haifa. I'm worrying about my family because the situation in Ukraine now really terrible.
The past decade and a half has witnessed a frightening upsurge of worldwide anti-Semitism, unparalleled since the 1930s. Across Europe, incitement, desecration of Jewish institutions, attacks on Jewish property, and acts of terror, including murder, are striking fear into Jewish communities. From London to Berlin, Brussels to Copenhagen, Jews are being harassed, assaulted, and murdered. The situation is particularly intolerable in France and in Ukraine. In France, violent crimes against Jews have become commonplace.
Avec la multiplication des actes antisémites en France, donc déjà j'ai peur pour moi, mais j'ai aussi peur aussi pour ma famille, pour ma femme, pour mes enfants plus tard.
In eastern Ukraine, over 1 million people have been displaced. In the escalating chaos and lawlessness, Jews have once again become scapegoats, with many anti-Semitic incidents reported.
When I was in school, my classmates told me that, oh, you're Jewish, it's not normal in Ukraine, why you are Jewish? It was very hard for me to speak with them, to describe every time what I do in Ukraine and why I'm Jewish.
I will give to you and your descendants after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. But Israel has always been the homeland of the Jewish people. Throughout their 2,000-year exile, the Jews prayed daily to return to the land of Israel. In 1917, Great Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. In 1920, Keren HaYesod was established to raise funds for this purpose. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Keren HaYesod has helped bring 3.5 million olim to Israel from the four corners of the earth.
This is Bible prophecy come into fulfillment. It's not just my heart, but I can feel the heart of Abba Father. Abba Father in heaven is so pleased to see His children who are scattered all around the globe is coming back home.
From India to Africa to Europe, record-breaking numbers of Jews are eager to come home. Aliyah rose dramatically in the past year, hitting a 10-year high, despite the security threats that face Israel. Keren HaYesod operates in 45 countries throughout the world. The Keren HaYesod law, passed by the Knesset in January 1956, grants the organization a unique fundraising status. In close coordination with the government and the Jewish Agency for Israel, and in partnership with the global Jewish community and Friends of Israel, Keren HaYesod promotes Aliyah and other national priorities. We need you, dear friends, to be our partners in this noble mission of helping the people of Israel return home before the window of opportunity slams shut and live safely in its secured homeland. Keren HaYesod, with your generous assistance, has redoubled its efforts to facilitate every Jew who wishes to fulfill the biblical prophecy. Friends of Israel, the Holy Land and its people needs you now. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth.
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Keren HaYesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
President Trump's Abraham Peace Initiative has already created a whole series of breakthroughs: peace with United Arab Emirates, peace with Bahrain, peace with Sudan, and now peace with Morocco. That's 4 peace agreements in a few months. There'll be more to come. I believe many more, if we pursue these policies. And in doing all this, Jared, you successfully reinforced American leadership in the Middle East and in Middle East peacemaking. And I think you greatly enhanced America's standing in the region. Now, in addition to advancing peace between Arabs and Israel, Arab states and Israel, you also took a pivotal role, had a pivotal role in President Trump's peace plan. It's the only realistic peace plan that has been presented so far that addresses Israel's fundamental national security interest and other interests. So for all these accomplishments, for the Abraham Accords, and for so much more, you can be proud of your contribution to normalizing Israel's relations with the Arab and Muslim worlds and for peace in the Middle East. I want to thank President Trump for his staunch support and leadership, for all he has done for the state of Israel. I think we're all deeply indebted for him, deeply indebted to his great actions and his great leadership, and we think that these achievements will stand as these peace agreements too. So I thank you, Jared, and I want to thank all of you for assisting this great effort. We will never forget it. Thank you. Thank you all.
The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.